Please welcome Dmytro Hlotenko on stage.
So, buongiorno a tutti, sono felice di essere qui in Italia, Forza AWS Community, and it's a pleasure to have all of you here. So, and to do this presentation in this wonderful place. Today, I have very personal and very technical topic because it's a real life story that we were doing last time on our Community Day DACH. And before I begin with the introduction, I would like to continue the tradition, quoting Steve Jobs today. He said once that technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with the liberal arts, married with the humanities that yields the results that make our hearts sing. And actually, this is the story that reflects this quote because this story is built on the passion of AWS community and it got powered by AWS itself. And yeah, as Nicolas mentioned, I'm cloud architect of APA-IT. I work with AWS for the last few years and I have 6 AWS certifications. I'm also a community builder and I'm also a photography hobbyist and so basically I'm a very big IT geek. And so basically in this presentation we will talk about the passion for images and community. We will talk about how AWS powers the photo processing pipelines and what kind of creative architectures you can also achieve. And yeah, so basically this is me, always with the camera, with the different things. And I'm happy to share with you that I have photographed, for example, Formula One, the KTM factory team. I have photographed different AWS stars, also including Anton Babianka, who was just recently here. I also was a part of Venice exhibitions, Venice photo festivals. I photographed Playboy models and other professional models, so basically lots of different things. And so this is actually why I'm here. So last year we had a challenge. So we had over 30 speakers, over 650 attendees, and I took 8,000 pictures for our community because when So, and all the idea around the community builders that all of us, we have a huge diversity, we have different people from different nationalities, we have good technicians, we have masterminds, people like, for example, Susanna pushing the community, and every one of us, what is important for community builders is to bring a special piece of yourself. And in my case, I bring photography to power the memories of everything that, for example, Linda, our community DACH team, Italian community, all our communities are doing to deliver you different things which are related to AWS, to power our shared passion. So, and yeah, actually, the idea of this project, it was about representing the actual physical process that I'm normally doing with the photography. And it involved lots of different stages from basic planning, defining what we need, what do we need for this, how do we do it, and it slowly transformed into something that we can delegate to machines. And in my opinion, that when we are working with some maternity, we can also apply it for both humans and the machines. And for example, when we were discussing the shooting planning, our marketing team of Community Day DACH, we were defining where, which, when, which photos do we need, what kind of postings we will be doing, because in real time, because of AWS, of my solution, I was sending pictures. Susanna, Hannes, Linda, they were taking them and making the media coverage of our event. And yeah, so the shooting process, it also involved my skills because I had to maintain certain level of quality of the content because then it reduces the overhead for the editing. And also for us, it was important to make this cherry pick to deliver the pictures to the community. And actually what there was the striking point of this project to delegate the most time-consuming processes to AWS, representing basically what I'm doing manually. And yeah, so, and just a quick overview before I go to the technical details. I'm always thinking about the project when I'm doing something on AWS, like a conjunction of the people, conjunction of technical implementation of data that we are processing, and it all must be orchestrated together to achieve the target. And so AWS serves as the connector between technical systems and human requirements in this case. And when I'm thinking about AWS services like an architect, I always come to it like a Swiss Army knife, because no one is telling you actually that, yeah, there is a service, you press big red button and it does everything nice. No, I always consider AWS like a kind of building blocks, like a tool, and conjunction of these tools lets us achieve some magnificent things. And yeah, and when I'm thinking about the processes which are powered by AWS services, this is why we have a picture of the waterfall here. So basically, we have something that pushes all our flow to the target. And yeah, so basically, this vision turns out like all the orchestration between humans, AWS services, and actually, yeah, so the actual technical implementations. And sorry, wrong button. And this is basically some outcomes of my daily work, because we are integrating lots of services to AWS to perform business logics and to perform data processing, whatever we need. So even we have some services which are built with AWS services in the baseline. And my idea was, so I was already knowing what is awaiting for me during the community day. And I thought, okay, what if I translate my regular working approaches to something solution that will be beneficial for our community? And basically, I took the approach that we have a data going through the flow, through the AWS services, bringing the value for us. And sorry, I have something went wrong on the Mac. Yeah, so this is the general architecture, the diagram of the whole pipeline. I would call it pipeline, but it's like orchestrated system, which was outcome of our community need, outcome of my like vision for it. And yeah, so basically everything starts that we get actual information. In this case, the source of information is the camera. Thankfully, I have performed linked in conjunction of the systems which are normally should not be linked. And in this project, I actually achieved this, that so completely separate systems were not developed to be in interaction between each other. So they actually interact in this way, and they are going through the step functions representing the logics and steps that so would be like representation of my normal work. Of course, we have different services, like we use serverless communication here, we use Bedrock, we use DynamoDB, and I'm have a pleasure to introduce you to the details of implementation. But any idea, it actually starts from the prototype. And since I'm already supporting AWS community since 2023, and I'm lucky to have photos from our user group, I'm lucky to have photos from our community stage, I'm lucky to have photos from our 2 community days, DACH. And I thought, okay, so let's make it simple. Like I went to Claude, I asked him, like, Claude, what do you think about the quality of this picture? Can it be used for the production? And Claude, I will give you the hint. Claude is afraid of the glasses. And whatever Claude thinks, so if it detects glasses on the person, then it says that the photo is great despite eyes are closed. And for us, for photography, it's like a core criteria if we take this photo for the publishing or no. So Claude was telling that it's good. So, and I thought, okay, we will not proceed in this way. And once I came to the office, and we use AWS recognition for our broadcast system, because we have trained it to do auto-titling of the Austrian celebrities, and we have used this in our production systems. And then I came back to the office, I took the same samples, and I realized that AWS recognition gives me all the data with what basically I would also try to gather myself with a vision. So, and the idea here that from here I could take out the core values and then take kind of labeled data set to understand what kind of pictures are suitable, which ones I would pick myself, and build the statistics that would let us take a good pictures from our, for example, event or whatever. And yeah, then when I got some good results about linking the basically I have a core point that I can recognize the quality of the pictures. Another idea was how to put the pictures to AWS. And thankfully, AWS is offering transfer gateway, and also some crazy Japanese scientists in Sony. They also included FTP support inside of the cameras, and after some setting up, so the Sony camera takes a picture and it flies directly to S3 bucket through the transfer gateway. And having on my table working recognition, working FTP transfer, then I thought, okay, we can proceed with building with the system. And it was built in a very short amount of time for about just 2-3 weeks prior the community day on the evenings. And yeah, so what I have started, we have 2 phases of image processing. For the first one, I was trying to get those like baseline points. So as I mentioned before, I took the samples from the previous events and labeled photos that I use in terms of quality or parameters of the person. So here it's nothing specific. Basically, we are taking the training bucket, and also I used it to recognize our speakers. And from here, I take out the metadata of the files that are shown on the screenshot before, and also I'm performing the analysis of the weights. And for example, the workflow, basically that we do recognition, then we do parameter weight optimization, and we are having the logarithmic scale for the parameters such as sharpness, brightness, and if the eyes are open. So, and here I'm also detecting from the recognition face detection confidence, eye opens, facial expression analysis, and for me, if we look into the things, so basically all of this is provided by Boto3 for recognition, but I did some additional wrapping, including Lambda power tools to make more reporting and to be confident what kind of data I'm processing. So then we are going to the actual production stage. We already have the weights. We know what our pictures are suitable for us. So here I'm happy to use Event Bridge together with the S3 bucket events. So the camera uploads the picture, so immediately it goes to the notification goes to SQS QE, of course with a dead letter QE, and then it starts the step function that takes the photo object. And here we have so the second core component stepping in the workflow. Here you can see that I have Libro Lambda. This is an implementation for raw processing, and so here we are using in conjunction the data we receive from recognition and data I'm extracting with this Lambda, including the metadata. And metadata will define what kind of processing, which kind of parameters, and if this photo will be taken for saving or not. And yeah, so we are going forward with automatic accept reject decisions, which were pretty accurate. I would say I would rate it over like 90% of quality, and it led me to deduct the whole set from 8,000 pictures for about 4,300. So basically hours of work, and and the thing is, using the features of the files that are incoming from the camera, using the features of the Libro, we are using the recognition in clever way that we are doing some basic preprocessing, and then we are going forward for the good candidates with more detailed processing. And so if we are looking primarily on the AWS recognition API, so I was mainly working with the detect phases, because for me it was important to take the biggest phase, which was like in the core of the frame, and take out then the values and then perform the comparison with the rest of the phases. And since we already have this data in the response, I was able to avoid index phases operation, which causes additional costs. And since with the Libro Lambda I'm extracting the small resolution preview, so it works pretty fast, and we can do simultaneous processing with the Lambda concurrency. Yeah, so another Another important point that to reduce the API calling to recognition, I also perform the batch processing. So, for example, if we detect the scenes which are familiar, for example, like I was shooting today, probably some of you saw it, that someone stands and I make 2-3 pictures, they are grouped, and to save the effort, they are sent to recognition, and we are also saving the cost for API calls. And basically, the good candidates, they are getting pre-processed, and it's a multi-stage system with some minor optimizations. So so I was evaluating different data sets, for, like photo sets actually that I have, and so the data that we have, it's also adjusted on the input parameter that we have of the actual photo, because all the photos are different. They are taken with a different light, they are taken with a different camera exposure, aperture, ISO parameters, and it all affects the recognition processing. It affects how Libro Lambda will process the file. And but the good news is that the only custom training for recognition that I have performed is only for the faces, because I wanted to be sure that recognition knows that Monica is Monica, Jimmy is Jimmy, Linda is Linda. So it was like a baseline for the ID implementation. And we're also taking that from out of recognition, if the face is recognized like happy, surprised, calm, angry, and I also did a separation. So core information for the recognition was the presence of the face. But if the face is not detected, it uses another label and uses another parameters for the quality recognition. Yeah, as I mentioned, we have about 85% of positive recognition, and bad samples, they are not destroyed, they are just put aside in a different S3 bucket. So actually, regarding the Libro processing Lambda, it was another big showbreaker for this project, because I was considering different ideas, from packing some commercial solutions, like for example, Topaz, Luminar, DxO, Capture One, into like for example, GPU powered EC2 instance and run it with some shell scripts. Then I was considering using the ECS with some open source solutions, and I found out that actually the Libro, which is encoded in the Pyro library for the Lambda, so I used the Lambda layers to deliver it, and then I found out that basically Lambda with 1.5 gigabytes of memory, it gives me performance relative to 2-core vCPU container on the ECS. That's why I kept it. And what it's all about, when you're taking the picture with the camera, we have very lots of data coming from the camera sensor. So the data from the sensor, it goes through the processing circuits, it's going through the camera processor, and then it encodes either proprietary format file, either it gives you DNG. And when you are shooting in JPEG, you have only 8 bits of information on the color channel. When you are shooting on some cameras without the global shutter, you have 12 bits. And for example, in my camera, I have 14. And it means that we have a more opportunity for data recovery, especially with the algorithms which are supplied with the raw converters. So here we are working with a plain signal from the camera that allows us to recover information in the shadows, in the highlights, which is extremely important for the speakers, since they are staying in the back of the screens. And this Lambda, so it does all the conversion from the Bayer matrix to the actual image, and then we are able to use this data for recognition. We are taking out the small tombinol, and another mode is actual processing. So here, what is important, this Lambda works in conjunction with the Bedrock. So I took Claude 3.5 Haiku, because I did some tests. I started with a Sonnet, of course, for the confidence. And the idea is that we are taking an account. So we have labeled data sets of the pictures I took, their metadata. I have metadata of which processing parameters I would use personally over them. And then Bedrock defines the parameters that it sends to the Libro for the actual image corrections. It does white balancing correction, it does noise reduction corrections, it does highlights, mediums. So basically all the core points of the basic image processing. And so we are taking account the camera metadata, and I'm happy actually that it it was possible to pack it in the Lambda, because I started initially with the EC2, GPU-powered EC2, and then we shrinked, and in this case, we have a flow of the pictures, but we don't need it to run constantly. So it's fine for us to run the Lambda. Processing takes for about just a few seconds. We are not hitting any timeouts, and it was extremely stable because it works basically for it with the same information, and it was extremely reliable, and it was doing its job. So we already have the freshly edited JPEGs which are ready for publishing, that were taken by Susanna live on site when she was making LinkedIn postings and etc. And we were able to share some pictures with the speakers pretty fast. So yeah, and another important thing about the whole pipeline, that we have efficient batch handling. So, and step functions does the concurrent image processing. It does we have different event load patterns, and we also used the DynamoDB TTL, for example, if something fails or we will not do it again, and we just don't need this information, it's excessive for us. And actually, what is the most important for me here, that the value that the technical solution brought to us, because we have got a post from the serverless master Luke, we got a post from Jan Chui, who was also our speaker with some powerful serverless presentations. I got lots of emails from our speakers saying that they are happy and that it's a good memory for us. And for me personally, it's important, because for now, yes, it's like it's the topic for now, but for me it could be a good reason to go back and see what we were doing, for example, 20 or 30 years back, when AWS is not a thing anymore. Yeah, and what I'm proud about, that we actually managed to achieve the deduction of the most time-consuming task, because I would approximate that all this pipeline, it allowed us to save over probably 60 or even 80, 90 hours of manual work by selecting the pictures. Of course, I took some time for development, but I have a good foundation which can be developed in some kind of further project. Yeah, so, and if we are talking about the costs, and actually the idea came when the presence of AI-powered professional solutions was not that significant. So especially for now, I know some comparable solutions for photo sourcing, but they are not working in the case as I need here. So we spent $20 on AWS recognition, and we spent 30 for the other services, for the whole orchestration, for the storage, for DynamoDB, and thankfully, one of the benefits of community builders, that you have AWS credits, and AWS fully powered and saved our community time that we can use for another things, like for example telling what great things we are doing in AWS community. And what I would like to mention, that so for me personally, AWS in this whole story, it's not just a cloud provider. So it's a toolkit that let us solve the problems, and it's our job to solve the problems. And when you have these tools, and together with our creativity, with our vision on the things, we can create an unexpected value. And yeah, so, and we are going back to the quote of the Steve Jobs, that technology alone is not enough. And we have lots of great people actually who are speaking today on this stage, on other stages, writing books about AWS, and that we are all use the opportunities AWS giving to us to deliver business value, community value. So it's simply amazing. And if I will speak about in which direction I would like to develop this project, so since we are already doing the core thing, that we are doing the actual photo processing, it would be nice to convert it in a kind of the platform where we do the sharing immediately, that for example speaker can come and say some code word and download the pictures. I also thinking about that it can be improved with more integration of AWS Bedrock. So for example, I haven't tried it with the Sonnet 3.7. Probably it gives some improvements for this perspective. And yeah, so and from all of this story, I would like to share with you that so if you are seeing lots of opportunities for services conjunction that, for example, here, like I used recognition, powering it with the serverless services, and we use AWS storaging. All these versatile building blocks, they let us solve us problems in some unexpected manner and unexpected domains. And the key idea, takeaway of this whole journey is that it's always important to look beyond the intended use case, because all our engineering vision then it allows us to expose like capabilities, because I think that engineers in Sony, they didn't plan that those FTP transfer function would put the pictures directly to the cloud, and then all these sample files were going through all these transformations. Yeah, and what is also important, that serverless architecture makes previously complicated things that required more time for management, for maintaining. It gives you resources for your creativity, and that you can deliver for the actual solutions. And yeah, and serverless, in this case, it allows us to save hours of manual work, and it's simply amazing, and we pay for what we use, and it allows us in the whole philosophy to represent the process that you would done yourself with the hands. And so what is also important, that yeah, we brought in this way some value to the community, that the skills are not only building us as a professionals, but we also have it. So it's simply amazing, and I think we still have some time, so I would like to thank you very much. Grazie mille. So I'm happy to cover some additional details, so hopefully, and please scan the QR code. I'm happy to have a chat about the session and share some insights with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dmytro. So we have time for a few questions. Okay, one there. I'm coming.
Amazing. Actually, a bit provocative question, but as we come to this conference, I always say this is the best conference ever, the best community ever, whatever. You mentioned that for every picture you took through recognition, you have scores for smile, happiness, and whatever. Can you build a score of every conference? I mean,
I'm not sure if I got it right. So does it go beyond some specific photo in the point, but over the conference in general?
Yeah.
But actually, that's a good idea. I think it can be potential point for expansion, so that we can see the speakers and get some statistics of the speakers. Linda, it's some good data analysis for us. Yeah, so I think it's a good point for potential expansion, because we already have the input weights, and it's a good point. I'm very thankful to you. But this is actually correlates with what I mentioned, that so if you have a clever idea, you have your tools, you only just have to come and use the opportunity which is provided by your knowledge and AWS services.
Anyone else? I have one for you. It's not prepared. I just think about that. What about extending your solution to other kind of venues, like football matches or live shows or a music concert and so on?
So I think it's pretty applicable, because we are not looking directly to. So I was not linking that this is a community day. I was not linking to the, for example, yeah, to things that it's an AWS conference. So for pipeline, it's no matter what kind of I don't know, medium is it. And so looking for like beyond the question, I think, for example, like football match or football, I don't know, some concert, we can take as a data weight some pictures from some data banks, like for example APAPix. We have already pre-sorted pictures, and for example compare some comparable event data with it, and it would work for any concert or football match as well. And actually, I forgot to mention that inspiration about FTP transfer, so basically two things that powered this idea, they came out of my work, because I'm working for Austrian press agency, and FTP transfer is used by journalists, for example, when they cover sport events, when they cover some live action, some political things, and yeah, also the titling with the recognition, it was our idea that I was working together with my good colleagues. So two of those ideas that let me do the thing, they came out of my professional occupation.
Thank you. Really well done. So, just a few minutes.